Chevre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freile, begash Bruchens. Hope everyone is healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. Today is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Vayigash. And it's also the day after Hey Tevis. Yesterday was Hey Tevis. The upcoming week is going to be Asura B'Tevis. We have to understand the lesson behind Parshas Vayigash, Chodesh Tevis, and Hey Tevis. And what lessons do we derive in our Avodas Hashem? Today we're going to talk about themes which obviously come up often. And that is, first of all, what's emes Yiddish nachas, and also what it means to be alive. And these are central themes that are relevant to our daily lives. But before we begin, as usual, we'll start with a pasuk. And that pasuk is from Tilim, a prayer. And that pasuk is from Tilim, Kapitel Kuf Yutes, pasuk Lamed Zayin. Havereinai meirei shov, bidrachecho chayeni. Avert my eyes from seeing worthlessness. Sustain me in your ways. So that means that meirei shov, life without Torah, is worthlessness. And bidrachecha, when we go in your ways, chayeni, that's when we truly are alive. My mashpia, Rabbi Elkan, used to say, sometimes by Fabregen Achab Bissel Mashke, what heißt dat gelebt? What does it mean you're alive? As a trucker nicht to be gefahren. As a trucker nicht to be gefahren. That you weren't hit by a truck. That just means that you're not dead. But to be alive means something else completely. So, where do we see it in this week's Parsha? In this week's Parsha, there's two major events, so to speak, about family life, which there's much to study and to learn and analyze. And that is, number one, how Yosef revealed himself to his brothers, and then how Yosef is reunited with his father. So, when after Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, he tells them what to tell his father. And there's parts of Shlishi and Revi in the Parsha, and Yosef is describing what they should tell the father, and Yosef tells them that the Eibishter sent you, the Eibishter made it that I should come to Egypt. Hashem sent me to Egypt so that I should be able to come up with a plan, how to have sustenance during the famine, etc. And in order to be able to provide for the family, that you guys should be able to survive. And then he says, so he sent me here that I should become a master of the entire household of Parai, and as a ruler in the entire land of Egypt. And he says, go tell that to Yaakov our father, that anyways, and then it says that they come to Yaakov and they tell him the story. And at first Yaakov cannot believe it whatsoever. And then it says over here that he sent them a wagon. And the pasuk says that after the brothers came back, Vayidabra Elav was called Divrei Yosef, Asher Dibra Aleim, and they related to him all the words of Yosef that he had spoken to them. Vayares Ha'golois, and he saw the wagons, Asher Salach Yosef Losei, that Yosef had sent to transport him. Vatchi Ruach Yaakov Avim. Then the spirit of the father was revived, Yaakov. And then Vayemi Yisrael, and then Yaakov says, Rav Oid Yosef B'ni Choi. He has much to be happy about because his son is alive. So, what I want to talk about today is there's one Sikha the Rebbe spoke to children, Zois Chaneke Tovshem Emhei, which the Rebbe said one word, and then there's what the Rebbe spoke on the day of Hey Tevis, of the Didan Notzach. And that's a Sikha which later put into the Likutei Sichos and Chelik Lamed. So first, let's talk about what the Rebbe spoke in the Sikha to children. It says in the pasuk over here, as we just mentioned, that Yosef sent the wagons. Why did he send the wagons? And what does it mean over here? As Rashi points out, Vayidabra Elav is kol divrei Yosef. In other words, what did Yosef tell his brothers in order to make sure that Yaakov would believe that it's true? So Rashi says, Eis kol divrei Yosef, simin marsalahem. Yosef told his brothers to tell Yaakov to give over the shear, what they were learning 22 years before. When the last time they were together, Yaakov was giving a shear to Yosef in the inyan of Eglah Rufa, and then Yosef got separated. So Yosef sent a message to Yaakov that was the last shear that he heard from his father. The Parshas Eglah Rufa. Eglah could mean a wagon, a golois, but Eglah also is connected to a calf, a heifer. So, first of all, the brothers gave over in speech what Yosef told them to tell Yaakov. In other words, the shear, the inyan of Eglah Rufa, and also the fact that it was wagons is connected as a remez to the idea. The word agolos is connected to Eglah Rufa. So, number one, the Rebbe brings out a point to the children that over here we see a lesson. How do you know that how you're supposed to learn something in Torah? You're supposed to learn something in Torah to such a degree that it becomes so engraved that after 22 years it's still alive. It's still fresh. And in a way, that's the deepest connection. The Rebbe doesn't mention this, but everyone also knows the famous Balaturim in this week's Pasha, where when Yehuda is talking to Yosef, why Binyamin can't stay there with Yosef, the pasuk says, "V'nafshei kshura b'nafshei," that their souls are bonded as one. The Baal Turim says, "Kshura b'gematria Torah." The word kshura is 611, as the word Torah, and the Baal Turim says, "Shalom ad mipiv Torah." That Binyamin learned from Yaakov Torah, similar to what it says by Yaakov and Yosef, but we won't get into that now. So Binyamin was connected to Yaakov. He was Yaakov's Talmud Muvak al Derech. And they were connected deeply mitzad the Torah. So there's that connection. So we see from the Balaturim over here, divested from Yaakov and Binyamin, we see the idea that Vaseis v'nafshei kshura b'nafshei. What's the deepest bond and connection that could be between two people if they're connected through Torah? And this is what Yosef is telling his father. V'nafshei kshura b'nafshei. I sat by you 22 years ago. Gelernt zusammen ein Inyan. Und ich hab nicht vergessen im Inyan. Der Inyan lebt noch bei mir. That's what's the ultimate Talmud. That's what the ultimate connection. That's the highest level. Actually, this Tishrei, I went to New York, and one of the highlights of my visit, I wanted to visit Rebbetzin Yael Khan, the wife of my mashpia. So when I went to visit her, she knows my family because my father-in-law, Olav Shalom, was Reb Nosson Gerari, and he was on the boat together with Reb Yael. When they came to America, they both went on the boat on Yud Aleph Shvat, Tovshin Yud. So they're connected, they're boyhood friends, Chaverim. So I visited her this Simchas Torah, Tovshin Pei Gimel. Reb Yael passed away last year. So when I came to her, she said something which is interesting. She says, "Tell me, why do you think your father-in-law was such good friends with my husband?" Aleichem Hashalom. She said they were so different in personality. She didn't elaborate. She just said they were so different in personality. So how are they such good friends? And then she answered it herself. She said, you know why they were such good friends? Because if they had a conversation in Chassidus a year ago, and my father-in-law lived in Montreal, and the lived in Crown Heights, New York. So if they met each other after a year, they were able to continue exactly what they were discussing previously in Chassidus. That's what she said to me. In other words, they were best friends. They were chaverim in Chassidus, chaverim in Torah, which the real definition according to Yiddishkeit and according to Torah, that's the real chaver. The chaver, which is like al derech chavrusa, you're connected through Torah. It's the deepest connection. The Torah is elikus, Torah is bligvul, and when you're connected through Torah, it's the deepest connection that can be. And this she was saying, like my father-in-law and Rabbi Elkan, they were both very big scholars, maskilim chassidus. V'nafshei kshurim b'nafshei, when you have a friend and you both live with concepts in Torah, that's the greatest connection that could be. And this is what the Rebbe spoke in that Sikh, the Tzivz Hashem, and the Rebbe said that this is how you see how you have to learn something, that it becomes so engraved by you, that it's still alive after 22 years. And then the Rebbe said that when you learn Torah in such a way, it's vatchi ruach Yaakov aviyim. The Rebbe said that Yaakov in Gan Eden gets a toises chayes from this, and then he's moireh rachem rabim on you to bring you everything good in life. So that's the one lesson. In other words, Yosef sent a message to his father that whatever you invested in me, the return is still there. The dividends are still there. That's number one. The second point, and this the Rebbe explains in the Sikh and Chelik Lamed, is that the message that Yosef wanted to tell Yaakov was that even though I departed from you, but that lesson that you taught me, which is now we're going deeper into this idea, the lesson of Egla Rufa. What's the lesson of Egla Rufa? We spoke about this not so long ago, Pasha Shoftim, that there's Canaan, the elders, the scholars, the leadership of the closest town of where this unsolved murder took place has to proclaim that it wasn't out of our negligence. We always give a person sustenance and security, escort and provisions, whoever is in our jurisdiction. And therefore, anyone who would be coming from our town or from our city or from our neighborhood would not be a neufel, would not be somebody who would be found in such a circumstance that he became murdered. In other words, we would definitely prevent a situation that there should be a homeless person that could be harmed. In other words, what's the message of Egla Rufa? The town has to bring an atonement, but they proclaim that we didn't do anything wrong. In other words, the message is that leadership in any situation has to take responsibility for the whole place, that there shouldn't be a situation where someone could become a neufel. And the same thing is true Baruchnius, that the person, whoever is part of a leadership, in other words, a follower of a leadership, if you're a citizen, so you're in this place where the leadership sustains you, gives you the values, gives you the virtues, gives you the guidance, gives you the education, spiritually, so you should be able to survive whatever will come your way. And this is what Yosef is telling Yaakov. Tati, you gave me the education, you gave me the guidance, you gave me the values, you gave me the virtues, you gave me the principles that will sustain me and sustain me in whatever challenges I had to face. Even though I was in Egypt, and even though I was in Eretz Haaretz, and even though I was separated physically from a positive environment of Torah and Chassidishkeit, nevertheless, not only I survived, I thrived. So that's half of the message. We gave already now 2 messages connected to Egla Rufa, but wait, there's more. And in the Sikh and Chelik Lamed, the Rebbe explains that Yosef is superior to Yaakov. As it's explained in Chassidus, that Yaakov is the Ovis, and the Ovis and the rest of the Shvatim had to live a life that they were secluded from the cosmopolitan city life. They were country dwellers, not city dwellers. And because they were not at such a level that they can go into Eretz Haaretz, into Paris, into Las Vegas, into Tel Aviv, call it whatever you want, a place that could be surrounded with rampant secularism, and not only stay as strong and not become harmed, but on the contrary, to thrive and influence the surroundings. And this is the Chiddush of Yosef. And this is the message also that Yosef is telling Yaakov. Not only didn't I go down, which that's what you gave me the power for, through Eglah Rufa, the message of Eglah Rufa, whatever you gave me, kept me strong, that I was inculcated enough, that I didn't get influenced from my surroundings. With that itself is an awesome achievement. But wait, there's more. There's an achievement which is Yosef's achievement. There's an achievement which makes Yosef unique and superior, even from Avram, Yitzchak, Yankiv, and all the other Shvatim. Yosef is that special soul that the whole Bnei Yisrael had to have Yosef being the one who's Noyeh Ketzoin Yosef. Yosef is such a super soul, such a super koyach, that he not only doesn't go down and remains as strong as ever, but he becomes even more powerful. He's Moshe Mitzrayim, which is a unique thing, that he can be in a Eretz Haaretz, and you become the Mashpia. And this is where Bnei Yisrael get the koyach, not only to survive Golus, which that itself is an amazing achievement, that no matter what will come your way, whatever challenges, adversity, you'll triumph, which means that it didn't get you down, that itself is a triumph. But more than that, that you'll be able to accomplish from Yosef Li Bein Acher, to take a situation of Acher, negativity, the lowest of the low, the furthest of the furthest, and make from the Acher Bein, to transform that we get from Yosef. And that's also part of the message, what Yosef is giving his father. The time is late, and I don't want to get into all the psukim now. See the Sicha in Chelik Lamed, where the Rebbe Mamash says Meilit Kechidushim of how the Parsha, where it stops Shlishi, where it begins Shlishi, where Revi starts, and it's all connected with these two levels. That there's one level of Yosef, which is the idea that he was able to become the one who was the provider and gave sustenance to the rest of Bnei Yisrael, which is the idea of not becoming less. But then there's the greater idea of Yosef, where he's Moshel, where he gives hashpah, he has a positive effect on his surroundings, and that's what Yosef is telling his father. And we mentioned the idea of nachas, and that's because when you see in the pasuk, when he gets the message with that golus, he says Vayomer Yisrael Rav. So first of all, Mefarshim being out there over here, we switch back to the name Yisrael, because Yaakov is the name of a Yid, where it's connected to Esav. Yodoy Chezes Bakev Esav. Yisrael is the name of a Yid, the way he dominates and is superior. And this message of Yosef telling his father that he's being mashpia in Egypt is similar to the idea of Yisrael dominating. Rav means a great abundance of profit, which is accomplished through Yosef. But then the word is Yosef b'nichoi, or Yosef b'nichoi. When the brothers told him that Yosef was still alive, so they just said, Oid Yosef chai, Yosef's alive. But what does it mean he's alive? That he's the president of the United States of America? That he's the CEO of a company that's the biggest, richest company in the world? No, that's not what Yaakov is interested in. What Yaakov is interested in is the message Vayaros HaGolos. And then Vatchidu Ach Yaakov Avim. And then he says, Oy Yosef B'nichoi. Because that's the main word. What says das melebt? Am melebt mit Teiras, nicht kein Peirish Yoren. And that's a message again and again that we see in these Pashas. Whether it's Pashas Vayigash, like all these things we spoke about, Vatchidu Ach Yaakov Avim, and Rashi says he got back to Ruach HaKodesh. So again, what does it mean that Uvgelept? Spiritually. What does it mean Yosef is alive? Spiritually. I'm going to see that soon. Everyone knows the word of Vayechi Yaakov Eretz Mitzrayim. Dafkin Eretz Mitzrayim is Vayechi, even though in that parsha he passes away. Like the Rebbe explains in many sichas. Vayechi Yaakov talks about after Yaakov passes away in the parsha. And Chai Sarah also talks after Sarah passes away. And the message in both places is the same. That in Yiddishkeit, life is not measured by living physically, but life is measured by spirituality. And this is the message of Hey Tavis. Without elaborating, there was a court case, and as the Rebbe explained, I'm going straight to the spiritual issue over here, that this was a complaint. For some reason, there was a view, a perspective on some level that maybe the movement of Chabad is not as alive, is not as thriving, maybe it's not as active. And the answer is no. As time goes on, when it comes to spirituality, we're truly alive. We're becoming more active, more vibrant, more energetic, spreading more and growing more and advancing more and achieving more and accomplishing more. Because when it comes to spirituality, there's no end, and that's a sign of true life, that it keeps on growing and growing, and we can grow more, because there's no end to how much it can grow, because we're talking about spiritual matters, we're talking about infinity, and there's no limits. And that's the sign of true life and true growth. And that's the message of Hey Tavis, that even though the Rebbe was speaking about this concerning the Frierdiker Rebbe, that there was something, there could be the estalkus of a tzaddik, but it doesn't mean that anything got diminished or that there was any weakening or deterioration. On the contrary, it's stronger, more intense, more powerful, more concentrated, etc. And that's the message of Hey Tavis. The message of the month of Tavis is a similar message as the Rebbe explains in the Sikh and Chelik Tezvav. Tavis is the month which is the coldest month. Death is connected to coldness. Right now in America, it's very cold in New York and Buffalo, etc. In any case, so there's the Hayom Yom, and the Rebbe brings it down in Likutei Sichos of the Hayom Yom Mivir Alf Sivan, where it says that we don't have to explain what it means, Tchias HaMesim, a resurrection of the dead, according to in Avodas Hashem. He says, Ames is kalt, something that's not alive is cold. Es nudaz a kalte zach vi seichel ativi and seichel anushi. There's nothing as cold as human intellect. Und wenn der seichel ativi versteht a soge elikis, und die midische beseichel werden spol und geriet von dem Geschmack sichli. When your human intellect becomes inspired by a godly intellect, and your emotions become ignited from the enjoyment of this understanding of Elikus, is thus that this is the true revival of the dead. So this is the lesson we have to take. We have to be alive. Alive means with a fire and with a vitality and a warmth and an excitement. And that means in our Avodas Hashem, and it means that we always have to look at wherever we're holding and to make sure the real sign of something which is growing is not only that it remains in the status quo, as strong as before, but it has to be stronger than ever before. And to do that, we have to always constantly light that fire by learning Chassidus, and that's how we fight the coldness and the heresy and the indifference, etc., etc. And this is the message and the antidote. This week is Asara B'Tevis, which was a situation where there was lack of brotherly love. Again, there was missing the warmth and the love. Ben Adam lechaveroi, and the Eibusher should help. We should reinbringen a Lebendigkeit und a fire und a Warmkeit in all our Avodas Hashem. Ben Adam lechaveroi and Ben Adam lemokim. The Eibusher should help that in Yirtzeh Hashem, Yehavchu Yomim Elu. In Yirtzeh Hashem, we won't have to come to the fast day. Yehavchu Yomim Elu l'sosna l'simcha l'medim tevim b'bias HaMashiach teikef miyad mamish. Posting from my home, Be'ez Hashem Yisborech, your man in Melbourne.